Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to continue where we left off in the last video with the ES6 exercises in the freeCodeCamp curriculum. Okay, let's get started right away. So in this exercise, we're going to learn how to create strings using template literals. Okay, so template literals allow you to create multi-line strings and to use string interpolation. Okay, so what does that mean? For example, here we want to create this string saved in the const variable greeting, and as you can see, we put the characters we want in the string, but also we can access another string from another object, like from the object person, using the dot notation and this $sign. Okay, so we can construct new strings like this. Okay, let's see what we are asked for from the exercise. So we need to use the template literal syntax with backticks to display each entry of the result object's failure array. Each entry should be wrapped inside list item element with the class attribute text warning and listed within the result display array. Okay, so we need to change this variable here. Let's see. So we can use an iterate. Okay, let's write this. So we want to display, we want to have an array of strings which are constructed like this. Let's see. And in the end, we should have something like this. What we can do in this case is we can, so this is the result, this is okay, we have this result object, and we want to access failure. Okay. Okay, what we can do in this case, we can iterate through this array and grab only we can iterate through this result.failure array to get all the values. Okay, so let's do that. For let I equal 0, I smaller than array.length, and I++. Okay, so inside we will have all these strings. Okay, so to access that string, we can do something like this. My str is going to be array at index I, and we want to append to this result display array. Okay, so let's declare this as an empty array. Now what we want to append is actually all of this, so we need to add all this stuff. Okay, and inside we need to have this will be the variable we are grabbing from this array. Let's see. We can try something here. Display string will be, we can copy and paste this. But in this case we want to replace this with a variable, and this is going to be the array I. Okay, so yes, so it should display this array inside, but we need to make sure to escape the quotes, okay, the double quotes. Let's see. Oh, first let's try if this works without escaping the double quotes. Okay, so I am creating this display string and I want to push it into the array. Okay, so result display array dot push display str. I'm going to use this. And in here we can just do this. And I am using the wrong quotes here, sorry about that. So it's like this. Okay, much better. And we want my. And let's see, we also need to declare this. Sorry, I'm used to Python. So we are iterating through the array, we are creating a new string, getting that index, that element at that index, and then I am constructing a new display string like this using the variable mystr, and I'm pushing that new display string into the result display array. Okay, let's run this. Okay, we can also use const right here. It's better to use const. Perfect, that's what we wanted in this case. Let's continue. Okay, now we need to write a concise object literal declaration using object property shorthand. Okay, so let's see this as an example. So we have a shorthand for the function get mouse position, and we are doing an object. We're creating an object here, returns an object containing two properties. Okay, so there's something we can do. So this is the shorthand for this shorthand, so we can return an object with x as a property and this as a value. So we can try to write something like this. Use object property shorthand with object literals to create and return an object with name, age, gender properties. Okay, so we need to change the code right here, and actually we can do something pretty easy. So we can remove all of this or maybe let's rewrite this. So this should be pretty straightforward. So inside we just type name, age, gender. Let's see if this works. Okay, that works. Okay, now about concise declarative functions. Okay, we can use the inside objects in ES5 we could use the function keyword, and in ES6 we can remove the function keyword and colon altogether when defining functions in objects. Okay, so we can just write the name of the function without using the keyword. So let's refactor this and use the shorthand. That seems pretty standard. Okay, just remove the function keyword and the colon, and that should do it. Yeah, it does it. Great. Ask me later. Okay. Now we need to use class syntax to define a constructor function. Okay. So in ES6 we have this class keyword. Okay, it's just syntax and not like a full-fledged class-based implementation of an object OOP like Python, Java, or Ruby. Okay, so let's see the example. Here we have the declaration of a class with a keyword class, a name, and a constructor. And then we use the new keyword. Okay, so the constructor is invoked when the new is called. Okay, great. So we need to use the class keyword and write a constructor to create vegetable class. Let's create the vegetable class using class keyword. Let's look at the example right here. Okay, and inside we can write a constructor target vegetable. This dot, oh, let's write this name. This dot name equal to name. So this is how we are constructing the vegetable class. Okay, and we are adding a property name. Let's run this. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to learn about getters and setters to control access to an object. So here is a getter and a setter. You can use get and set keywords. Okay, this sounds, and we create these new properties. Okay, let's see. So we are using the dot notation. Okay, now we need to use the class keyword to create a thermostat class. Okay, let's write this thermostat, and inside we need to make a constructor which takes temperature. Okay, temperature, let's call this temp, and this dot temp is going to be equal to temp. Okay, so we have the property temperature now, which is in Celsius. We need to create a getter and setter in the class to obtain the temperature in Celsius. Oh, sorry, it gets it in Fahrenheit and we need to return it in Celsius. Okay, so let's write the getter and setter. Okay, down here, get Celsius temperature. I'm calling it like this. And I'm going to return this dot temp, but we need to convert it. So it will be 5/9 times this dot temp minus 32. And that should do it. So we are converting it. Okay. And then we need to we need to also put a setter in the class. Okay. And set Celsius temp, and I'm calling this update temp. And now we're going to update the temperature, and this is going to be, since the update temp is in Celsius, we need to convert it in Fahrenheit, so it will be this one, update temp times 9.0 over 5. Okay, this looks good. Okay. Okay, let's see how this runs. So we create a new thermostat right here. We set the temperature. Okay. Okay. We need to name the property temperature. I didn't notice that. Let's. Okay. So I'm going to call this temperature and this temperature as well. Let's run this. Okay, that works. So we are going to create a module script. Okay. So in order to make JavaScript more modular, clean, and maintainable, ES6 has introduced a new way to easily share code among JavaScript files. Okay, so we can export parts of a file for use in one or more other files. And we can import the files we need where we need them. Okay, so here is an example of a module. So if a script uses this module type, you can use the import and export. Okay, we can add a script to the HTML and give it the source of index of type module and give it the source of index.js. So we can do it like this. It's going to be a script of type equal module, and source will be index.js. And that we should close the script. Okay, let's run this. Okay, great. We need to use export to share a code block. Okay, so let's see here. We are exporting this add variable, which stores a function and performs addition. Okay, but we can do something like this. So instead of exporting, putting the export right here, we can store the function in this variable and export this variable. And then we can import it in another module to reuse that code. Okay, great. So now we have defined here two functions in two variables. We can just export them like this and lowercase string. Let's see. Okay, that works. Now about using the import. So we can choose which parts of a file or module to load. Okay, so this is an example. This will find add in the math functions.js import. We can import more than one item. Okay, so we need to use the import statements that will allow us to import these two functions from the string functions.js. Okay, since pretty easy, let's write it here. So we need to import uppercase string and lowercase string. Uppercase and lowercase from string functions. Since it is in the same directory, we can use this notation. And I think that does it. Okay. Nice. Let's continue. We can use the star to import everything from a file. Okay. So we need to import all the contents in this .js module. And we can use the as keywords to rename it, to put a name. Okay. So let's try this. We can do import star as string functions from, and let's call this string functions.js semicolon. Okay, great. Now if we need to have an export fallback with export defaults. Okay, so there's another export syntax known as export default. So usually this syntax is used if only one value is being exported from a file. So it is also used to create a fallback value for a file module. Okay. Here we have a named function. Here we have okay. This is the anonymous function. So since export default is used to declare a fallback value, you can only have one default be a one value be a default export in each module for a file. Okay. So we have this default for the function. So we want this function to be the default. Export default. And we can write this. Let's run this. Okay. Now we are going to learn about importing a default export. Okay. So we learn how to export it. Usually we do something like this. Okay. So the only change is that we do not use the curly braces around the variable. Okay. So we just use the variable name. Let's import the code, the default export from the math functions.js. I'm going to name it import subtract from math functions.js. Okay, let's run this. Okay. Now we're going to learn about JavaScript promises. So we use promises in JavaScript. Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. So when you promise to do something, which usually is asynchronously, so we're going to talk maybe later about this. And when the task completes, you either fulfill your promise or fail to do so. So promise is a constructor function. So we need to use the new keyword to create one. It takes a function as its argument with two parameters, resolve and reject. So these are methods used to determine the outcome of the promise. Here is an example. Okay. We need to create a new promise called make server request and pass in a function with resolve and reject parameters to the constructor. Let's call this const make server request, and it's going to be a new promise. It's going to take resolve and reject, which are two methods, and it's a fat arrow function. Okay. This should do it. Something missing. Oh, okay, here it is. Okay. Now we need to complete the promise using the resolve and reject. Okay, so there are three states in a promise: pending, fulfilled, and rejected. Okay. The promise we created in the previous exercise is forever stuck in pending state because we did not add a way to complete the promise. Okay, so the resolve and reject parameters given the promise argument are used to do this. Resolve is used when you want your promise to succeed, and reject is used when you want it to fail. Okay, so these methods these are methods that take an argument. Okay, let's see the example. Here we have a new promise created. we put an if condition, which if that is fulfilled, then we do the resolve, and else we do the reject. Okay. So strings are the arguments for resolve and reject in this case, but it can be anything. In this case, we just give them strings because this is what we want to console log if this happens. Okay, so we need to make a promise, handle success and failure. So if response from server is true, call the resolve method. Okay, let's do this first. So if response, so this checks if response from server is true, and what we need to do is call the resolve method. So we need to call the resolve method here. Resolve, and we're going to give this message as an argument. Okay, yeah, we got the data. And if it is false, we are going to use the reject method instead and pass this message, data not received. Okay, so use reject, data not received. Okay, that should do it. Great. Now, when a promise is fulfilled, okay, so that's when they are most useful. So when you make a server request, it takes some amount of time, and after it completes, you usually want to do something with the response. And we can do this using the then method. Okay, so then is immediately executed after the promise is fulfilled with resolve. Here's an example. My promise.then, and then we have an arrow function in here to do something with the result. The result object comes from the argument given to the resolve method. Okay. So we need to add then to the promise, and we need to use result as the parameter of its callback function and log result to the console. Okay. So here we have our promise, and then I'm going to use this to write the then, and I'm going to give that result as a parameter. It's going to be a fat arrow function, and what this does is just console log result. Okay, that's it. Perfect. Now, then is for successful promises, but for rejected promise we need to use catch. Okay, so this is a method we use when the promise has been rejected. It is executed immediately after promise reject method is called. Okay, so here's the syntax, my promise.catch error, and we do something with the error in here. The error is the argument passed into the reject method. Okay, so we can chain then and catch sometimes if we want to. I think that's the usual way you do it in JavaScript. So we need to add the catch method to your promise. We need to use error as a parameter of its callback function and log error to the console. Okay, so let's do this. Make server request dot catch, and then we're going to use this syntax as error, and we console log error. Let's run this. Okay, great. So that was it for ES6. In the next video, we will continue with regular expression challenges in JavaScript. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, to the channel to support me. Also, if you want, hit that notification bell so you get a notification whenever I upload something new. I'll try to upload 2 to 3 times per week, and to maintain this schedule, so every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday. So make sure to follow on this and to keep on learning. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.